What's going on, everybody? It's FREEDO here for Your Overwatch, and a lot of you have been asking me to cover the new reworked D.Va, what is her playstyle, and how to actualize it. That's what we're going to cover here today. The main point being, if you approach this new D.Va like we did with the old D.Va, you're going to have a lot of struggle, actually, because nothing in her kit is really built to do the same job she used to. Some of the tactics with the Korean D.Va playstyle can still be used, but it's going to come into play so less often because not only do you have less capacity in your defense matrix to be able to have it up, you also have that value shuffled around into your offensive potential, meaning that the position that you're going to have to be playing in the team fight doesn't look the same at all. So purely based on the opportunity cost of where you need to be in the fight, you're going to be shielding your team and covering them and catching damage far less often than you would in the previous D.Va. Catching damage is still going to be important, but more for clutch interactions, extending your life slightly, catching ultimates. Instead, the new reworked D.Va, we want to think of her more as a tank, and I don't mean the World of Warcraft tank, I mean like a machine of war. This new D.Va plays much more similar to how you might envision the lore of D.Va. I know that might not matter for gameplay so much, but if you remember back to the Overwatch cinematic trailer, D.Va was like shooting green rockets at, I don't know, the evil Omnics or whatever they were. This D.Va is a lot more offensive in that way. So in order to utilize that, we have two ways to go about it. One, realize that she's a mechanically based hero now, easier than most DPS, functionally speaking, but still requires mechanical competence to get that value out of her. And then two, the engagement strategies of where you should be in order to capitalize on that playstyle. Because if you don't have infinite damage block anymore. You're going to get punished if you're out of position, so you don't want to be doing that. The first thing I want to go over is a couple techniques that you're going to want to be working on if you're a D.Va player, because your FPS skill sets are more involved than they ever have been before in the previous iterations of the character. The most important of all, in my opinion, is practicing tracking while you're thrustering at your opponent. This really allows for some aggressive bully tactics, and keeping your shots on target as you fly towards something will melt the opposition when you pick out the correct target to fight. Once you've got that down, you're going to want to add a melee to the end of this for two reasons. One, it cancels your thrusters, stopping you in place so that you can then follow up shot on whatever you're chasing. They are going to add an option where you can hold down the thrusters and then release them in order to cancel them rather than pressing the button twice. But if you learn to do this melee at the end of each one, it will add an extra bit of burst damage with the melee, stopping you at the correct place, getting you at that money distance, up close and personal, so the shotgun-like spread of her fusion cannons can do maximum damage. Overall, you're mostly going to want to be meleeing anyway, even when they do add that in, so it's best to start learning that now. Now, the last wrinkle to add is using the micro missiles, which honestly aren't the biggest takeaway of her kit. Being able to shoot her fusion cannons while flying and closing the distance is much more lethal than the micro missiles can be. However, they're kind of a cherry on top for your damage. They add splash damage to help charge your ultimate, and also just a little bit of extra love in there to be able to burst down targets while you're doing these aggro tank plays. So the thing that's most important to utilize them for is getting really close, because then the closer you are, the projectiles don't have time to miss, if that makes sense. If you're right up next to them, your spread and your projectiles will hit, so you can spam both of them at once to quickly burst down a target, and that's very important. You want to try to use these in conjunction when you can. I oftentimes don't use the micro missiles with my defense matrix up, even though you can, because it's less valuable to split up your damage. You want to try to combine it when you can help it, so that you can eliminate a target rather than do a little damage here and then a little more damage there. That's just an amount of trash damage that's likely going to get healed. There's some situations you can think of if like you're diving a soldier's sights, eating his ultimate, and can pop in some damage while your teammates shoot him as well. That's fine, but generally speaking, you're going to want to be saving these two to be used in conjunction. And as far as utilizing them at far distance, if you're familiar with how Orisa's primary weapon fires, it feels kind of similar to that. So notice when you're at a medium range, when your main weapon will do practically nothing and you're flying and pursuing a target, then focus only on aiming your projectiles, because there's no point to try to aim both at the same time like we would when we're close, because you can't hit both at the same time. You can press both buttons, that's fine, but always make sure you're focusing on leading the projectile whenever you're trying to shoot at medium to longer ranges. Okay, so those are the most important tools in our utility belt when playing D.Va. Now let's talk about utilizing them properly in the engagements of Overwatch, because the mechanics are good, but if you don't know how to apply them, then you might just be losing mech anyway and not being able to use them. First and foremost, I would say D.Va works a lot better now in an attacking team comp. Now you can play an attacking team comp on defense. We've spoken about this in the past, but it requires your team to engage actively rather than stand around and wait. That's what you want to be looking for with D.Va. Opportunities to dive in on the key targets, play really aggressively, do a ton of burst damage, and if you lose a mech trading for a key target, it's always a positive trade in your favor, because you can obviously charge up mech in the fight and then come back up, whereas they have a long respawn walk. Because of this on attack, I actually am a big fan of the Zarya D.Va combo, because it allows D.Va to get into the face of things that don't want D.Va in their face and protect her a little bit, like you might do with an aggressive Doomfist or something, with the Zarya bubble attached to her, unload her damage, charge up the Zarya, and it really snowballs the team fights from there. Attacking in the Mercy meta oftentimes is won by getting the first kill fast. Because even if they do get that res off, well, 30 seconds for a res, then Mercy's back to just being normal Mercy, and you can proceed to win the fight from there. Having tanks that can have immediate damage impact increases your team damage to such an extent that you're doing damage, other teammates are doing damage. It's really aggressive, and you can't res everybody, obviously. But that playstyle is often risk, reward, boom or bust, and works better on the attacking side, where you're going to have multiple chances to engage into a comp. Whereas on defense, if you lose stabilization, you're losing the whole section of the map, and that's all she wrote for that, which makes this playstyle easier to do on attack. Now, another big skill set in playing a dive tank like Winston or D.Va now, who are both aggressive, frag-obtaining dive tanks, is knowing your target prioritization. And to me, it goes as follows. If there's a DPS who is a major threat to your team, you should focus them down. But if the DPS isn't so much of a major threat, or the supports are easier to get to, and you're willing to do a race that you can kill their supports before their DPS kills your squishies, you can go for that option. It's kind of either or. Sometimes you'll be peeling to knock around the Winston as he dives your healer, because really you do a lot of damage to everything. Your spread and burst damage is good at melting down the tanks and the DPS alike. As long as you're not losing your mech and killing something, you're probably doing okay. But the way you take that to the next level is making sure you get kills on the Mercy, get kills on the Pharah, characters that disable a lot of your team from being able to play properly, or just are so valuable that you have to go for it and trade them. I would go as far to say that D.Va is better in matchmaking for countering Pharah than she used to be. She does a little bit less to stop Pharah from super far range, just like the hit scans don't as well. Pharah might be playing at sniper distance, and then you have D.Va, McCree, Soldier all doing no damage to her from miles away, not countering her whatsoever, despite the fact that you have 3 hit scans. You need the engagement to close the distance, right? You gotta get closer to everything so that everybody can hit their meaningful shots. And once D.Va gets in that spot, she more harshly counters Pharah, but it used to be the case where you could eat rockets or spam. Junkrat's really big nowadays. You can't eat enough spam to shield your teammates. It's just not happening. So in order to coordinate around that, I think it's crucial that you communicate to your team when you should be going somewhere, because you only have 2 seconds of that invulnerability period to get past any spam, Symmetra, Junkrat, whatever. And it's still really strong if you use it that way, because you get your team past the choke, and then D.Va will be in closer range to do whatever she wants, picks a target, gets a kill, and the whole team fight breaks open. But if you don't do that, and you're trying to do the old Korean catch all the damage playstyle, unfortunately, new D.Va's moved on from that. She's a strong, independent woman looking to kick some ass, so you have to unleash her and get her in close range to be able to do that. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and you found it useful. If you did, please leave a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. If you haven't already, please subscribe, because we upload each and every day, so you're gonna wanna hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Also, you can check out our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.